Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a first look at the BM70. This is a super tiny mobile cell phone. It's not a smartphone by any stretch, but still is incredibly small, but you can put in a SIM card and use it to make and receive phone calls. Still is kind of cool though. It sells for under 50 bucks, not too expensive. It does also have built-in Bluetooth as well, so you can even connect it to a full-sized regular smartphone and use it like a regular Bluetooth headset. This is what the kind of earpiece looks like if you hook it on, and some of the other pictures here. Smallest mobile phone, comes in two colors, black and white, smaller than the lighter, has a small 0.66-inch OLED display. It also has a remote selfie control function. Again, if you're connected to an actual smartphone, you can use this little device to act as a clicker for taking a selfie with a group of people. It has a 300 milliamp hour battery, which is tiny by smartphone standards, but for something so small, it's actually okay. Claims to last up to 15 days on standby mode. Some of the specs are reiterated again on the rear. Here is the BM70, just again extremely compact. We'll take a closer look in a moment. Here is the removable hook that you can use to wear it more comfortably if you are attaching this little earpiece. This is what it looks like. Has a traditional silicone tip, and it's interesting that this is removable, but if you want to pop it on, it's like a module that you lock into place on the back here. And so obviously when it's detached, you can use the front here basically like a regular phone to put it up to your ear for answering calls, but the sound can also come out from this bottom module when you pop on this piece. Charging cable is using micro USB, and there's also a quick user manual. Alright, so taking a closer look at this tiny little phone, here it is against a US quarter, so you get the idea of just how small it really is. It's kind of funny because a few days ago we did a review of one of the smallest rugged Android smartphones, but by contrast, this thing looks even smaller. To put things into perspective, here's what it looks like against a regular size phone these days that has a 6-inch display. So again, this thing is just absolutely tiny. The OLED display is black and white, but it's pretty good in terms of contrast, and gets sufficiently bright to look at the limited information on here, including your battery status and also the time and date info. And then the red icon here can be used to reject a phone call, hang up, and also long hold to turn the phone on and off. We have just an up and down arrow keys for navigating the menu interface. There's no left and right, so it is very basic, and the buttons are indeed tiny, so you do need to have a little bit of patience when using it to make sure you're pressing on the right keys. But they are textured at least, so they are differentiated from each other and have a tactile sensation when you are kind of pressing down. Decently solid, and on the side here is where we have a rubber flap that covers up the SIM card slot. And then on the very bottom here is where we have just a micro USB port for charging, the microphone, and nothing else on the other side. There is no kind of traditional volume rocker, but when you're in a phone call, you can tap on the up and down keys to raise the volume higher or lower. Finally, on the very top, there is a lanyard strap, and the battery itself is not removable. Here's what the clip looks like once you're fully attached, and fits in pretty well. It still is very light, so again, doesn't add too much weight even as you're wearing it, although it still is going to be a little heavier and larger, of course, compared to, say, a pair of AirPods. Compared to something like a more sports-oriented design, such as the Powerbeat Pros, you can see that's the difference. So taking a closer look at the menus here, you can tap on the top key here to enter the list of functions. So these are both soft keys that will change and bring up other features, the left and right side. So we can tap on here once. It will take us into a phone book. We can go down to take a look at any SMS text messages. Indeed, you can send messages, but it's relying on this T9 layout. So all the keys, A, B, C, D, E, F, just like back in the day with feature phones and dumb phones, you have to kind of hunt and peck. Obviously not going to be best for, text entry. You really would want to use this for voice input, if at all, but it is there. And you can also take a look at your call history. Under multimedia, let's tap on OK. You can play back some music and audio. That is, if you're connected to your phone and using it as kind of a remote. It does need to scroll sometimes to fit in all the text, so it's not the most beautiful looking UI in the world, but it is at least functional. We can tap on here to go back, and then downwards once again to connect using Bluetooth to a smartphone. Under organizer functions, we have access to what's called a magic voice. So this is actually a voice changer function. So if you want to talk to someone, you don't want to reveal your full voice, you can change your voice to, say, a female or kind of a more husky tone and kind of disguise what you sound like. So it's going to change the pitch of your sound. Also, if you're connected to your regular smartphone using Bluetooth, this is almost like a smartwatch, where if you get a new text message or a a notification from social media, this thing will also kind of chime, and you can see that symbol pop up on the screen. And the final one is the alarm. So you can set up a alarm clock to wake you up in the morning, for example. Pretty typical stuff. You can set up to 2 different times. And that's all of the kind of organizer functions that you have. Under settings, we can take a look at profiles to kind of silent the sound if you're in a meeting, for instance. Pretty simple. Time and date information can be also set up. You can also take a look at the language that you have. If you want to enter a flight mode, you can turn that on. A closer look at message composition. This is what the interface looks like. Very small, but again, it is functional, just requires some hunting and pecking to readapt since it's not a QWERTY layout, but you can tap on keys multiple times to get to what you want to say. For example, hello. We can also kind of tap on this a few times to eventually kind of write out what we want to say. We can also try out the speaker quality, listening to music through this. Right now it's playing back through the earpiece here, but we can crank up the volume. So it is actually surprisingly loud, and of course if you're using it like a traditional pair of buds, when wearing it, it works a little bit better because you can turn the volume down and still hear everything. And for the most part, again, it works as expected. I will say that the reception quality is only so-so. In fact, oftentimes if you're indoors, it will be pretty weak, often only getting about 1 bar in kind of a suburb area. But if you are outdoors, just like a smartwatch, the antenna can still mostly find at least some signal to make a call, but it's definitely a little weaker, I find, than on a full-blown smartphone. But it is functional for some quick use, and if you are kind of connected to your phone and making a call, you can also select whether you want to call it using your SIM card on the phone or using the Bluetooth function, basically using the data from your regular smartphone that you're connected to. So that's more or less it as far as our just quick hands-on look at the L8Star BM70 tiny mini cell phone. Really is one of the smallest in the world, almost too small for, I think, regular use for most folks, but it's kind of a cool novelty item, I suppose, a backup phone, something that you can just wear and forget about. You can even attach a lanyard and kind of wear it around your neck like a necklace, and then kind of when it vibrates, you have the incoming call or notification as an alternative to a smartwatch, for example. So an interesting gadget overall, even though it's not going to be for everyone, I think. But if you're interested, you can check out more details in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the BM70 tiny mini mobile cell phone.